Welcome to my channel. Subscribe and enjoy my new stories every day. Every morning, as the first light bled into the sky, I made my way to the same local cafe. It was an old habit, born out of a need for routine and the comfort of their dark roast. Today was like any other day, or so I thought, as I pushed open the door to Java Jive, letting the familiar jingle of the bells announce my entrance. The cafe was unusually crowded for this hour. Navigating through the sea of sleepy patrons and wafts of steam rising from mugs, I found my usual spot in the corner. It was a small sanctuary surrounded by bookshelves, giving an illusion of privacy and quiet. As I settled down with my coffee, ready to dive into the morning paper, a burst of laughter caught my attention. At the table next to mine, two girls in their mid-20s were deep in conversation, one with fiery red hair tied back loosely, and the other a brunette with sharp, inquisitive eyes. They were too engrossed in their own world to notice me, or so I thought. Yeah, and you wouldn't believe it, the redhead chuckled, flicking ash from her cigarette into a makeshift ashtray. Lisa has been seeing this guy for 2 months now. Totally under her husband's radar. The brunette leaned in, her expression a mix of shock and amusement. Lisa? Our Lisa. But she seems so devoted to her family. Exactly my thought. But girl, she's changed. It's like she's living a double life. I saw them together last Thursday, hands all over each other. It's not just some fling. I froze, my heart hammering in my chest. Lisa. My Lisa. They couldn't possibly be talking about her, could they? But the details were too specific, too real to be a coincidence. The pang of betrayal was sharp, unexpected, and deeply unsettling. Determined to learn more, I pretended to read my newspaper while listening intently. It's pretty intense, the redhead continued, her voice dropping to a whisper. She's been sneaking around, meeting him whenever she can. Says he makes her feel alive, you know. Not like the boring life she has. I clenched my jaw, my hands trembling slightly. This was not the woman I thought I married. The woman who kissed me goodbye this morning with a smile, claiming she was just meeting friends for lunch. As their conversation drifted to other topics, my mind raced. I needed proof. I needed to see it with my own eyes. How could I confront her without evidence? But once I had it, what then? The thoughts of revenge started to seep in, dark and tempting. She had destroyed our vows, our trust, and for that, she would have to pay. I left the cafe with a heavy heart and a resolve as cold as the untouched coffee left behind on my table. This was just the beginning. I would find out everything. And then, I would make sure she lost everything, just as I was losing my belief in the love we had built. As I stepped out into the brisk morning, the sky seemed grayer than before, mirroring the storm brewing within me. My next steps were clear. I had to plan meticulously. Lisa's career, her reputation, I would dismantle them piece by piece. She would not see it coming, just as I hadn't seen her betrayal. The game had just begun. The days following my eavesdropped revelation at the cafe were a blur of cold determination and covert planning. I was a man on a mission, driven by a seething mix of betrayal and the burning desire for retribution. I couldn't confront Lisa without undeniable proof of her infidelity, so I started where every suspicious husband might. I scrutinized her phone records and online activities. One evening, under the guise of working late in my home office, I started my investigation. Lisa, unsuspecting and serene, had left her laptop open and her phone charging in the kitchen while she took a long shower. It was the perfect opportunity. I sifted through her phone first, my fingers trembling slightly as I bypassed her security code, a birthday, our anniversary, finally settling on the last 4 digits of her social security number. The phone unlocked, revealing a plethora of messages and call logs. I scrolled through, my eyes catching on a particular number that recurred at all hours of the day. Heart pounding, I noted it down. Next, her emails, nothing outright incriminating there, but the tone of some conversations with Mark seemed overly familiar, punctuated with late-night messages that were too casual for mere friends or colleagues. "Finding everything okay?" Lisa's voice, sudden and sharp, cut through the quiet of the kitchen. I jumped, caught off guard, her phone still in my hand. I turned, schooling my features into an expression of casual curiosity. "Yeah, just looking for the pizza coupon we got. Thought it might be in your emails. Pizza night, remember?" She narrowed her eyes, a flicker of suspicion passing over her features before she smiled. "Right, on the fridge, babe. I'll grab it. You set the table." "Sure," I replied, relief washing over me as I put her phone back exactly as I had found it. That night, after a tense dinner where we played at normalcy, I lay awake in bed next to Lisa, the space between us filled with silent accusations and unasked questions. My mind was racing. Tomorrow, I would follow her. And I did. The next day, I took a personal day off work under the pretext of feeling unwell. Once Lisa left, supposedly for a yoga class, I trailed her from a safe distance. My suspicions were confirmed when she drove straight to a quaint, secluded park, and not to the yoga studio. I watched from behind my sunglasses and the safety of my car as she met up with Mark, the man from the messages. Their greeting was far too intimate for just friends. Armed with photographs and a video from my phone, I felt a cold satisfaction settle in. It was all the evidence I needed. Now it was time for the next phase. I reached out to a few contacts who specialized in digging up dirt. Mark wouldn't know what hit him. And as for Lisa, her career in local politics would crumble under the scandal I was about to unleash. As I drove home, a plan forming in my mind, I felt the first real smile in days stretch across my face. Revenge was indeed a dish best served cold, and I was just getting started. With concrete evidence in hand and a plan seething in my mind, I initiated the next phase of my retaliation. Lisa's political career and her personal life were about to intersect in the worst possible way. I began by contacting a few discreet yet highly effective media contacts I'd retained from my days working with local campaign teams. This needed to be orchestrated carefully to cause maximum impact. I arranged to meet with Jared, an old college buddy turned investigative journalist, at a dingy diner that prided itself more on its confidentiality than its coffee. I slid into the booth, scanning the sparse crowd before pulling out my phone to show him the evidence. Jared whistled low, his eyes flicking between the screen and my steely gaze. "This is explosive, man. Are you sure you want to go through with this? Once this is out, there's no taking it back." I nodded, my resolve hardening. She made her choice, Jared. Now, she gets to live with the consequences. He tapped a few notes into his laptop, his professional curiosity piqued. "Okay, give me a few days to verify everything. We do this right, it's a front-page scandal." "Make it fast," I urged, my impatience a living thing. "I want no doubts when the storm hits." The next few days were a tense waiting game. While Jared worked on corroborating the affair and digging deeper into Mark's background, who turned out to have a sketchy past himself, I prepared the final act of my revenge. Meanwhile, at home, Lisa seemed blissfully unaware of the impending storm. We moved around each other in a dance of domestic normalcy, conversations light and devoid of the chaos brewing beneath the surface. Finally, Jared called. "It's all set. We go live tomorrow morning. Are you ready for this?" "As I'll ever be," I replied, the words a mix of relief and a twinge of something like regret. The article dropped early the next morning. By breakfast, Lisa's phone was buzzing incessantly. I watched, feigning ignorance, as she scrolled through her messages, her face draining of color. "What's wrong?" I asked, my tone laced with faux concern. It's nothing," she stammered, standing abruptly. "I need to handle this." As she retreated to the bedroom, I turned on the local news, the lead story confirming her worst nightmare. Photos of her and Mark, along with a detailed account of their affair, were plastered across every local channel and social media platform. The article hinted at corruption, questioning whether Mark had influenced her political decisions. By mid-morning, the phone rang with calls from her campaign manager, colleagues, and friends. I watched from the shadows as her world crumbled, her voice a mix of pleading and angry denials. That afternoon, as she sat at the kitchen table, her eyes red and puffy from crying, she finally confronted me. "Did you know about this? How could this happen?" I leaned against the doorframe, my arms folded. "Maybe it's time you started being honest with me, Lisa. What's really been going on?" Her defiance melted into desperation. "It was a mistake, a stupid mistake. I thought it didn't mean anything." "But it did," I said quietly, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "And now you pay the price." I left her there, her sobs echoing in the empty house. This was the retribution I had promised myself. But as I stepped outside, the victory felt hollow. The sweet taste of revenge was overshadowed by a bitterness that lingered, reminding me that the war I waged had no true winners. The fallout from the scandal was swift and devastating. As Lisa's career disintegrated under the weight of public scrutiny and her own tarnished reputation, the final act of my revenge began to unfold. I had saved the most damaging blow for last, a revelation that would sever the last of the ties that bound us. I had arranged for a final meeting with Lisa, at the same cafe where the seed of betrayal was first sown. The irony wasn't lost on me as I watched her approach, her once confident stride now uncertain. "John," she began, her voice hoarse, likely from days spent crying and arguing. I don't know what to say." "Sit down, Lisa," I said, my tone flat, betraying none of the storm inside me. "There's something you need to see." I slid an envelope across the table towards her. Curiosity flickered across her face as she opened it, pulling out a series of photographs and documents, the result of my thorough investigation into Mark's past, which revealed not just an affair, but a calculated manipulation of her affections for political gain. Mark had been using her from the start. "What is this?" she whispered, her eyes scanning the contents, widening with horror as she absorbed the implications. "Mark's not who you think he is," I said, my words cold and sharp. "This wasn't just an affair, Lisa. You were targeted because of your political influence." Her face crumbled, the final vestiges of her composure shattered by the depth of the betrayal. "But, why are you showing me this now?" "Because I wanted you to know the entire truth," I replied, the twisted part of me satisfied at her torment. "I wanted you to understand just how deep the betrayal went." Lisa looked up, tears streaming down her face. "John, I'm so sorry. I never wanted any of this." "I know," I said, and for a moment, I almost meant it. "But sorry isn't enough. Not anymore." Standing up, I watched as despair took root in her eyes. This was more than just revenge, it was a complete and utter annihilation of the person she once was. As I turned to leave, Lisa called out, her voice breaking, "John, please." I didn't look back. Instead, I walked out, the sound of her sobbing etched into my memory. The revenge had been brutal, insidious, and complete. Lisa was left with nothing, no career, no lover, no semblance of the life she had known. But as I stepped outside, the chill of the early evening biting at my skin, a hollow feeling settled in my chest. The victory I had envisioned tasted like ash. I had destroyed the person who had wronged me, but in the process, I had lost a part of myself. Months later, news reached me through the grapevine that Lisa had moved away, a shadow of her former self, seeking to rebuild her life from the ruins. And Mark? He had disappeared, likely on to his next unsuspecting victim. As for me, I remained in the town where everything had unfolded, a man haunted by the ghosts of his own making. The cafe, once a place of solace, now served as a constant reminder of the cost of vengeance. Revenge, I had learned, was a double-edged sword, one that cuts both ways. I had severed the ties with Lisa, the echoes of our shared hatred for betrayal the only thing remaining of what we once had. In seeking retribution, I had freed myself from one pain, only to find another waiting in its stead, regret.